Here's problem 8. And the difference here is it doesn't give us a clearly defined point like 2, 7, and 6, 10. It tells us it's 2, some variable n, and 6, some variable plus 6. The same variable as that guy. And it wants us to know the slope, the distance, and the midpoint. Well, no need to freak out. Let's just think what we know. We've already learned from some of the other videos or in class, we know the slope is simply the change in our y's over the change in our x's. Remember, from the other videos, we simply remember rise with the y's and run to the exit. So it's y's over x's there. So let's just subtract our y values divided by subtracting our x's. Well, do you want to do this y, n minus n plus 6 or n plus 6 minus n? Doesn't matter, whichever one I start with. If I start with this y, I got to start with that x when I do it on the bottom. If I start with this y, I got to start with that x when I do it on the bottom. I'm going to start with this guy. So I'm going to start with n plus 6, and then I'm going to subtract that guy's y value, n. Now the x, I got to start with the 6 there. Since I started with that y, I must start with this x, 6 minus the 2. Well, look how nice this is. N take away n goes away. I'm left with 6 on top over 6 minus 2, 4. So it's 6 fourths or 3 over 2, 3 halves. If you want, you can put 1.5, but since we're talking slope, it's okay to leave it as an improper fraction. So there, the slope between these 2 points will be 3 over 2. It'll rise up 3, run over to the right 2. The distance. Well, we have that nice formula for the distance. It's the change in our x's squared plus the change in our y's squared. Again, it comes from the Pythagorean theorem, where if you have a point here and a point here and you're trying to find this length, all you're going to do is you simply can go over and then right up. You've made a triangle, right triangle. We know this leg squared plus that leg squared equals the hypotenuse squared. Well, what is this length? That's simply your change in your x values. You went over there. That's the change of the x's. That's the change in the y's. Oops. Change in the y values. And remember, we do this squared plus that squared equals the hypotenuse squared. Once we get that number, we'd have to take square root. That's why you got a square root right there. So let's go ahead and write this out. We'll do it right here. It's a change in my x's. So I got to subtract my x's. 6 minus 2, I can do that in my head. That's 4 squared. Plus the change in my y's. Well, again, I got to subtract them, which you've already done here. N plus 6, take away n, is just going to give me a 6 squared. So it's 36 and 16. 16 there, 36 there. We add them together, 52. Square root of 52. That'll be approximately 7 point. I'm going to guess, because I know 49 is 7 times 7. So it's a little more than 7. I'm going to go, it's either 7.2 or 7.3. Let's just go with about 7.2. Okay, I might be wrong there. You can check on the calculator. I don't have one on me. Square root of 52, though, I'm going to imagine it's about 7.2. 7 2/10. That's how far away these points are. Now the midpoint. The midpoint is the middle point. It's like finding the average of 2 grades. How do you find the average? You add them together and divide by 2. So to find the midpoint, all we're going to do is we're going to add our x's together, the first x and the second x, divide by 2. Then add our y's together, divide by 2, and that'll be the middle point. So let's add our x's together. 2 plus 6, I'm just going to write it and then we'll do it, divided by 2. Add our y's together, n plus 6. N plus n plus 6 divided by 2. Well, this will be 8 divided by 2, which is 4. This will be 2n plus 6 divided by 2. So I still need to do that. Well, if I'm dividing by 2, I'm doing 2 into each one of them. Well, that's going to come out pretty. So I have 4. That divided by 2 is simply n. 6 divided by 2 is simply 3. There's my middle point. Looked like it was difficult starting off, but you just follow what you know to follow. Don't let it try to trick you. There you go. Problem 8 seemed a little tricky, but we were very easily able to find the slope, the distance, and the midpoint.